Come on in, welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about great Survivor blindsides, which had devastating results. It's the ultimate monkey's paw on Survivor. We all love a great blindside, but sometimes the result of the blindside is one of the season's most entertaining players leaving the game prematurely. These are great, exciting eliminations with heartbreaking results, where a super fun personality left way too early, or a strategist willing and able to shake things up later on is blindsided. Most importantly, it felt like these 5 players had a lot more to give their season, their absence noticeable, and their storylines left feeling unfinished. So, someone like Drew Christie won't be included here because while I loved him on the show, he had a perfect little pre-merge arc. It's a weird tightrope to walk, and I'm not really sure it makes a ton of sense, but hopefully you get what I'm going for here. So put on your jacket, call up the California girls, and meet me at the Young Beefcake Club as we count down 5 great Survivor blindsides which had absolutely devastating results. At number 5 is Thomas in Survivor 48. Our most recent addition to this list, Thomas was the peppy, snarky, and just a little bit evil shot in the arm the new era needed. A devious player and god-tier confessionalist who had so much more to give this season. Thomas was just so much fun to watch. He made deals, he made side deals, then he made side deals off the side deals. But he also had the unwavering loyalty of Joe, Shaheen, and Bianca, and he snuck his way into being the best positioned player on original Logi outside of possibly Joe. He was just so unapologetically sneaky and willing to do the dirty work, but it never felt mean-spirited. The swap sent him and his fellow California girls to Vula alongside Kyle and Camilla, a truly lovable underdog duo who played a bad hand perfectly by obscuring their relationship to deduce the other alliance's target. I know most of us love seeing likable players perfectly play their way out from the bottom, and I was rooting for Kyle and Camilla to pull off the correct idol play against the big dogs too, which they did. Just wish they put down a different one. They made the right move. Kyle and Camilla correctly deduced Thomas had an advantage from the journey, which is why they targeted him in the first place, but I can still be mad about it. This is a huge blow to the season. Thomas was so good in the confessionals, but more importantly, there is no way Thomas would have gone along with the yawn-inducing strong 5. We were more robbed than Amber on that All-Stars reward. Even Jeff on the pod was like, yeah, we'd like to see him back. He left too early. Hopefully, we'll see Thomas back at some point to finish what he started, as that pre-merge invite back is reserved only for those production felt left without fulfilling their full potential, which Jeff is certainly hinting at here. You know, your true pre-jury greats like your Wentworths, your Michaelas, and your Varners. Scratch that last one. At number 4 is Siri in Survivor Heroes vs. Villains. Why did Tom and Siri have to come to blows? Put on your get-along shirt. You two are just gonna let JT steer this tribe? Off a cliff? This is Siri's only L outing, and it took one of the most dominant players of all time, armed with an idol, to take her out. Also, Colby was there too. The early post-merge and the pre-merge villains dynamics get all the credit when people talk about how great a season this is. But the Tom versus Siri arc early on at the Heroes Tribe is also super entertaining. Not only is it fun to see 2 genuine titans of the game throw down for control of the tribe, but it's also really interesting to see Tom in the minority and out of control for once in his life. The Heroes' 6-strong majority had the numbers to split votes between Tom and Colby, but as we're about to see, JT plays returning player seasons like he's playing with house money, and he defected to Tom and Colby, giving them enough votes to squeak out an idol play on Siri in the process. The lead up to this tribal just gives me shivers. The anticipation is so palpable, and it feels like the night before 2 armies go to war, complete with Tom just casually dropping the hardest pre-battle line of all time.
They're gonna go 3 for me, 3 for you. If you flip your vote, the 3 of us vote Siri, and then I play the idol. Siri goes home, not him.
There you go.
Tomorrow we make our apologies, tonight we make our move.
Tom undoubtedly made the smart choice here. Alongside him, Siri is by far the best player on this beach, but I would have gleefully taken any of the other heroes going here instead. On the one hand, Tom and Siri going head-to-head here and targeting one another gave the vote massive stakes. On the other hand, can I interest anyone in voting out Candace instead? At number 3 is Natalie in Survivor, David vs. Goliath. A top 10 pre-merge character of all time with a classic comeuppance, Natalie is one of the most memorable parts of one of Survivor's best seasons. But I'd trade it all for a little more Natalie. Physically imposing, verbally imposing, mentally imposing, all around imposing, Natalie minced 0 words with her tribe, constantly chastising them for their lack of work ethic, while mostly just standing around. Swap to Jabeni with fellow Goliaths, Mike and Angelina only emboldened her behavior further as she tried to strong-arm Nick and Lyrsa into sucking up to her and blackmailing them into giving her their jackets in an attempt to stay. The will they, won't they dynamic of Mike and Angelina's decision here to vote off Lyrsa or Natalie is given a surprising amount of weight, as they're caught between their desire to stay Goliath strong and their sympathies for Nick and Lyrsa, who they like a whole lot more. Mike and Angelina agreeing to rid themselves of Natalie once and for all was the right moves for their game, even if Angelina did somehow overplay this vote in an attempt to get Natalie's jacket.
Natalie, is there any way I could have your jacket? Natalie?
But this is just painful. Natalie was just too much fun to watch to go out this early. A wholly compelling and unique character for Survivor 2 decades into its run. No one embodied the Goliath concept more than Natalie, and there was a freaking pro wrestler on her tribe. I know some people will probably disagree with this one and say that Natalie had a perfect rise and fall and was on TV for the perfect amount of time, but here's my response. Think of the Natalie napalm she would have dropped on these 3 from the jury bench. Check and mate. At number 2 is Malcolm in Survivor Game Changers. Malcolm's elimination was the canary in the coal mine that the big names were gonna get clipped and the literal who's were gonna run the season. Tony's boot could be written off as tragic but understandable, but Malcolm's opened the door for the coming cascade of increasingly disappointing eliminations of Survivor legends and also Jeff Varner. It's such a disappointment that Malcolm's Survivor legacy ended here. His story genuinely feels frustratingly unfinished. It's the winds of winter of Survivor. But whereas George R.R. Martin could simply go ahead and get off his lazy ass and write, Malcolm was almost completely helpless this tribal, the second victim on this list of JT's chaotic returnee meddling. This was Survivor's first joint tribal council, and calm down there, Seabass. That just means 2 tribes came together pre-merge to vote 1 player out. Nuku was targeting Sierra, Mana was targeting Malcolm, but JT got up and informed Brad they were voting for Sierra, in the hopes that Brad would dictate his alliance to idle out Sandra. And in doing so, JT essentially birthed the modern live tribal council as we know it. Now, Mana did play their idol on Sierra, but instead they targeted Malcolm, JT's closest ally. Your mileage probably varies on future live tribals, but this was a genuinely exciting tribal council with a dynamic we hadn't really seen before, and I was having fun watching the chaos unfold. Until this.
4th person voted out of Survivor Game Changers. Malcolm. That's 3, that's enough. Need to bring me your torch.
I'm gonna vomit.
You and me both, brother. Malcolm is one of the most universally well-liked players ever. Like, I've never actually seen a hater for him, and that is exceptionally rare. But to see him go out in episode freaking 3 through very little fault of his own is just a deeply unsatisfying conclusion to what was otherwise an exciting tribal. And Malcolm clearly had so much more gas in the tank for this season. I'll just say this. JT's reckless returnee gameplay is much more fun when he's getting himself voted out. At number 1 is Bobby in Survivor, Exile Island. Had Bob Dog survived this tribal council, I guarantee you he would have been an all-star player. He would have been a favorite, a villain. Favorite again, why not? Winner at war. Heck, throw him on second chances too, even though in this scenario he's played like 4 times already. They'd have made a statue of his head on the Island of the Idols. If only Danielle didn't exist. For me at least, Bobby is one of the funniest players to ever play this game. He is genuinely in the Courtney and Tyson tier, effortlessly sending off brutal zingers without a second thought.
I don't feel bad that I stole your wine. Like, I feel bad that I deprived them of wine, but I have no hard feelings whatsoever about the fact that you've been deprived of wine.
Now, was Bobby a good Survivor player? Well, he was good at parts of Survivor. Specifically, he was good at the parts of Survivor where you shit on Courtney, as well as actually shitting in general. But it was those qualities that made Danielle deem him, quote, not a gentleman, and target him in episode 5. The chaos of this vote is really fun and incredibly on brand for Kasaya. What should have been a straightforward Bobby vote ends in a freaking plurality, with the women on the tribe voting for Bobby and everyone else just throwing darts at a board. Only Kasaya could split the votes so hard that a generally consensus boot would go home with less than half the votes. It's a fun pre-tribal scramble, and it feels like Bobby or Bruce could go. Tribal Council's good, but it just has disastrous results to not only this season's entertainment value, but future seasons where Bobby would have been a shoe-in returnee, if only he'd lasted a little longer. All because he's not gentlemanly enough. Because as we all know, Danielle only works with gentlemen in Survivor. Just alliances and alliances full of gentlemen. Oops, all gentlemen. Got nothing else for ya. Be a gentleman or gentlewoman, please, and like and subscribe, and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.